Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Down Storage Tech. Today we are breaking down the Scorpio Miss. Now, specifically, we're breaking down the Scorpio Miss Slice, which was also designed by Scorpio, but it was inspired by Acacia Chan's regular cart misses. Now, this sorts items at a whopping 2.4 times hopper speed, so let's get straight into it. So what is a cart miss? Well, let's break down the miss side of it first. Miss stands for multi-item sorter. Now that means you can have a bunch of different items like all of these right here, and they all go into one individual slice right here. So they'll all fill up here instead of having a different chest for each individual item like in that bulk right there. That one's a hybrid, but that you also get the idea. Now a cart miss basically means the way it's being done. So a minecart with a hopper or a minecart with a chest, depending on which storage system you're using, will be used to pick up the items and go through the line and sort the items into their individual ones, as opposed to just a regular maze which uses hoppers and hopper logic and stuff like that. Now, just a little bit of context of what we're getting ourselves into is I'm not breaking down this input right here in this video. I am just breaking down the miss slice because there are some really key important fundamentals for cart misses that I really want to break down, and I want to get down into the nitty-gritty of why this actually works. And so one last bit of context is what the cart is right here. What cart are we receiving from this line right here and going all the way through here? Now, through this, we get this is our cart right here. We get 4 shears and 15 of any single item. Now, this 15 stackable size makes it really, really helpful because it means we can sort both 64 stackables and 16 stackables with the same system. You don't have to separate them or anything like that. And obviously unstackables will just go right through the system because they don't work and are not supported. So they'll just go into the overflow or depending on what you have. Now, there is one thing other to note, and it's that the vanilla rendering for these entities and stuff like that has some like interpolation and desync that makes it really hard. So I'm going to quickly cut to that and explain what it is, or like what is the observable effect and how to fix it. So basically what I was on about the client desync and stuff like that is it's the apparent difference between the minecart's actual position on the rail when you can see and versus the actual position. So if I just place this cart right here, you can see that with this chest right here full of shulker boxes, the minecart isn't picking it up at all. But with the regular settings in Minecraft, if I place this here and freeze the game, and we slowly start to tick step, just tick a few over here so it gets up to speed, and you can see like it's right here, but it's starting to pick up, and you can see the difference. So it picked up one of the shulker boxes from this chest right here and put it right into this hopper, this minecart with a hopper, even though on our client it's a huge distance. And then you start to step, it starts to pick up even more, even though right here it's rendered. And I can even show you that when the hitbox of the thing was all over here, it was not intersecting in the chest whatsoever. Ooh. Now, the way to solve this is so for this, you will need 2 different mods and extensions for the mods. The first one is carpet and carpet TIS, and you basically want to do this really neat command, entity tracker interval, and set that to 1. And what this will do is make the server send its position packets of all the entities every single tick. Now, the other one is tweakeroo and tweakeroo more, and here if I go into mods and scroll down to tweakeroo more, and see tweaks, and if you go to disable the entity render interpolation and interpolation force sync, turn both of these to on, that should fix this visual discrepancy because of the client becoming desync. So now if I tick freeze, I can see nothing in the minecart, nothing in the hopper, and then we start this again, slowly stepping through. See that it starts to speed up way faster, but in this position where it was picking it up before, still not getting picked up. Now, there's another cool thing to note from this experiment is how much time we have on this rail right here. So you get already starting to get in the rail, and the minecart hopper is still empty. Then as soon as it picks it up, you get the first one, you're about halfway through the rail. So this is your first tick, and then you have your second tick, which is fully on the rail, and then your third tick, and then even your fourth tick where the hitbox is aligned with, or still on the rail. And that'll be important for later, and you can see that it's picking it up at the insane hopper speed or that minecart with hoppers have. So now that we got that out of the way, we can start breaking down the actual miss itself. Now it's basically mirrored and it's a 2-wide tileable system, but for the most part, it's just a single wide tileable system. So let's just quickly place down our cart again so we know what we're getting, and let's get straight into it. So the cart will be moving down through these powered rails right here, activated and turned on by this lever. This lever is actually super helpful because it powers both these rails and these rails, which is very, very convenient. So once we're moving down, because we have a hopper minecart like this, or it can pull from above it. So that's where these chests come up here. And this is actually the item sets that basically dictate, okay, these items right here go into here, right here. So you can have up to 50 different items filling up all the way here until these shears. And then what you have to do is have a single item slot, and then you have to fill the remainder. So a single item is worth 1, and then if you put a 16 stackable, you got to put 4 of these in its place. And what you have to do is basically do the math with these extra overflow little iron nuggets right here, or just any filler item. So that way the signal strength is constant for all of it. So that way you, as soon as you take out a singular item from here, what'll happen is this redstone wire will go to 0. So you have to make sure that you have it done the math properly. And you can find a bunch of tables for this stuff just online for the fill level of a chest and based on the comparator signal strength levels. Now, once it's flowing through here, it will actually pick up the item. For example, in this case, it'll be redstone. So it'll be over in this chest right here. It'll pick up the redstone, meaning that this will drop by 1. And this is where the ticks become super, super important. So we saw earlier over there that we have about 3 or 4 ticks for this to go through right here. And what happens to be is that's where the timings and why cart misses are so interesting. The comparator will take 2 ticks to realize that, hey, this chest has changed levels before it reduces and goes down to, or makes this redstone wire right here 0. Once this is 0, it'll stop powering this target block and stop powering the sticky piston. And the piston actually starts retracting immediately, which is different to when it's extending. And through this, it actually just barely makes it because it takes 1 tick for the piston head to move. So that way the minecart can get pulled over here. Now, this means that it will still be on its rail right here as it's getting moved, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. And what'll happen is this rail will actually come back and snap. And what'll happen because of this is that the rail or the minecart will just kind of glitch through here and snap onto this powered rail right here. Once it's snapped onto here, it'll go through here, and this is where the rail speed and the ticks also become super important. So what'll happen is as soon as it snaps down and comes over to here, as soon as the first little bit of it crosses over here, the first shear will get pulled out. Then what happens is over the next couple of ticks, it'll travel across, and what'll happen is it will cross over to here and gets the second one pulled out. And a little bit later, after the 8 game ticks of this hopper's cooldown will turn off, and it'll just, the back of it will just be about here, allowing this hopper to pull the other shear out. And then the same thing happens with just being at the edge of it right here for this hopper to pull the last shears out right here. Now all of these shears go down into here and this hopper line right here to go and be recycled for the next couple of carts. Then what happens is the cart is now exactly where we want it. We want it to have it like this. And what will actually be true, I forgot to mention this, is it'll have 16 because of the singular item that gets pulled from up here. So it'll actually be stacked up to 16. Now, once it moves up right here or moves into this bubble column, it'll actually get yeeted through the scaffolding onto these rails right here. And because of the way they're facing and that they have no, or basically no horizontal momentum due to hitting this glass block right here and snapping onto these rails, they'll fall back down to here and then move back up here. Once they move back up here, they have this stone brick wall to bounce back, but the first thing that'll happen is this hopper will pull an item. So it will pull the placement item used for this chest right here, wherever it was. And then it'll go on its 8 game tick cooldown, and it'll start moving down over here and come back and just make it out before this hopper redoes a cooldown. Now, once this hopper picks up the item and pushes that back here, the comparator returns to normal, and comes bound and then can push the rail back, and then the system's been reset, and that's what essentially is basing around the clock in the input right here to send minecarts on those intervals, because you need this rail to be here by the time the next minecart comes by, in case it's on the same slot or it's in the same slice or it's in a further slice, because it needs to pass through. Now what then happens is it continues its path right here, and this is when we need the staggering a little bit later in just a second, but basically it'll make contact with the glass right here and fall down and fall right here, where it goes into a cart breaker, or a cart yeeter as it's like to be called, because it eats the cart. And what happens is it kind of glitches into this glass and it makes contact with this soul fire right here, which will actually instantly break the cart, and the cart will be placed above this soul fire right here or over here. But basically what happens is it separates the items, which will go into this cobweb right here, and the cart that'll go over here, and they'll slowly make the cart will be brought down into here, into these hoppers right here to connect, and this hopper just links up to the next dropper. The reason we have a dropper here is so that we just save on hoppers, because hoppers are very laggy, especially on a lot earlier versions. So what we want to do is save on as many hoppers as we can and place as little of them as possible. So that's why we place this dropper right here, so we can pass the item from this slice into the dropper, and same with this one into the dropper that's right here, so they can be pulled from. Now this is then the other line, which will be for minecart hoppers, so we can then continue to run the system and recycle them. Now the items will fall down these cobwebs right here and land on this tripwire right here. You can see I have a little texture pack to make it a little bit more obvious. What this is doing is keeping the system alive, because there is a clock right here, and we use this to say, hey, the system's still running, so keep the system and don't lock everything up. And once it goes through, this is where the helpful nature of soul sand, as if you can see, if I go right here, you can see the hitbox is just slightly different. If I go and I look at here and I fall onto the soul sand, it drops just slightly. It just drops slightly. And we use that because it's not a full block, so that items can drop through and get collected by this hopper right here. Now this hopper will then get pulled into this hopper, and then so on and so forth. And this is where the overflow system comes into play. Basically what happens is it goes down to here, gets pulled, because hoppers, the way the priority works, this hopper will pull before this hopper's cooldown to push begins. So it'll get pulled down into here and go into this chest and go all the way into the bottom. Now what this means is this chest will fill up first, then this chest, then this chest, then this chest, and then this chest. Now the thing is about this is, if you pull from items from here, this chest will not refill it, but what will happen is items from this chest and this chest will refill both of these. But if you start filling up this one, nothing will be able to refill it apart from sending more items. And that is just the way that the system's designed, because otherwise you'd have to have a super huge long chain, and that just becomes horrible to work with. Now the overflow comes into this part right here. So let's say you fill up all of this right here and you go in this hopper right here. Now what happens is once you fill this up, this hopper will then push the items into this hopper line right here, where this is your overflow line, and as you can see, it goes all the way here. And in this system, it just goes into the overfill section, but you could have a separate chest for overflow so you know what's going on. Now, a thing worth noting is that with this system, the items are not sorted. It is literally what order you put it, which means that you can have inefficient ones, where, for example, you could have one of every single item, and then you could fill up this hopper right here with, or like the stacks, so that way there's not full stacks. But then if you fill this hopper right here with non-equivalent of the same stack, so like let's say I have 32 redstone and then the rest is filled up with whatever. If I fill these hoppers with like shears and then soul sand, if they don't get pulled, and then I put redstone here, these will not come together and be nice and sorted. So that's one thing to note about the mist. So now we're going to see this whole system in action. So I'm going to test it out with this gunpowder right here, just so we get a slice and we don't have to see the minecart travel through. So what we're going to do is we're going to slow down the game to a nice pace, like 2. And then what we can do is we're going to just chuck this in there. We can see it go through here. We'll see it get triggered, pulled, and snap onto those rails. Get shot up right here. And then once it's removed all the items, then it can drop the singular one back, come all the way here, snap down, get broken, and then see the items slowly get stuck in the cobwebs right there. And then we can just return this back to a normal tick rate. and we'll see right here that the items are slowly making their way down. One thing I forgot to mention is because of the cobwebs, we can actually, or it'll actually increase the batch size of it quite a bit. And once it goes through, so that way the hopper can pick it all up at once instead of having to deal with the hopper cooldown. And then here we go, 15 gunpowder, easy as that. But apart from that, I think this is a super cool, super simple cart miss that is really easy to set up for like early game. Like the main expense right here, it's gonna be the powered rails, it's gonna be the hoppers, and gonna be that piston right there. But apart from that, it's pretty cheap. The cobwebs might be a little bit annoying to get, but it is what it is. So overall, a super cool, super simple system that allows you to get a miss super early on. And yeah, you can have up to 50 different items per slice, which is pretty standard. And with the hopper speed as well, the 2.6 times hopper speed, it's better than the Mooney miss, which is my go-to miss for most things. So yeah, overall, a really cool little system. Anyways, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, see you in the next one.